And then the next thing is that there are 4 things that we need to achieve from Ramadan. The very first thing is that the month of Ramadan is the month of reform. You know what that means? You know, when a person goes to prison, often we see here in America, the prison system is so horrible to begin with, that instead of going to prison and coming out as a reformed person, as a changed person, most of the time people who go to prison, they come back out, they commit crimes again, and they're back in jail. This is how it usually works. Our system here, the juvenile system, the prison system, is not a reformation system. Otherwise, the prison system should have been a reformation process. People go there, they learn their lesson, they become better people, and they come out, but that's not what we see here. But Ramadan that's why we talk about Ramadan as the month of reformation. You enter Ramadan with weaknesses, but you come out on the other end of Ramadan with strengths. A person can come from Ramadan, enter into Ramadan, and they're not coming to the masjid, but they come out on the other end of Ramadan, and they're coming to the masjid every single day. That's a sign that their Ramadan was accepted. That's a sign that the Ramadan is accepted. If you want to know that if your ibadah is being accepted, just look at your ibadah and see how your life is. If your salat is not protecting you from committing fahisha, the Quran says, "Inna salata tanha al fahsha'i wal munkar." The salat has that powerful ability to stop a person from committing sins. But if we're committing the same exact sins, the problem is not the salat, the problem is us. Likewise, when it comes to Hajj, Hajj is a person is changed after Hajj. When it comes to Umrah, a person is changed after Umrah. Just recently, a person came to me and told me they were not praying Salah, they were drinking, gambling, everything. One time they went for Umrah, their entire life changed. Their entire life changed. These things have that ability to do so, and they have the ability to change a person. Likewise, Ramadan has the ability to change a person, but we have to be willing to change in ourselves. That's the very first thing that we have to achieve from Ramadan. The second thing that we have to make sure that we achieve from Ramadan is the spiritual aspect, which is detoxification. Detox means what? When you say detox, what does that mean? A lot of times they do, juice, detoxification juices, they say, But there is something called detoxification, that you go through a spiritual cleanse in the month of Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Those people who work on their spirituality, who are focused on detoxing themselves and eliminating all the bad in their heart, all the amradul qulub in their heart, and they're focused on achieving a qalbun salim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are the people who are successful. And likewise, when it comes to so many other places in the Quran, Allah says, for example, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Those people who are iman, who have iman, they are successful. He says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. These are the people that when they pray salat, they are concentrating. And then He says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. They are those who stay away from al-laghw. And then He says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. Zakat in the Quran, there are places aqimus salah wa atuz zakat. That zakat means pay your zakat. But zakat overall does not necessarily mean zakat. Zakat means tazkiyatun nafs. Okay? Anytime you read the Quran and it's not associated with salat, understand that zakat would mean purification of the soul. That's what that means. So that's why it's called tazkiyatun nafs. So Ramadan is the month that we go through a detoxification. What should we eliminate from our heart? There's arrogance. There's arrogance. There is belittling other people. There is hatred, malice, jealousy. Also, 2 things that shaitan uses to destroy people. Number 1 is to create doubts in other people's hearts, which is ash-shubahat, and number 2 is ash-shahawat. Shahawat is desires. Today, people fulfill their desires in haram ways. These are the things that takes a person far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once again, Ramadan has to be used for detoxification purposes. And if we don't detox ourselves, then the heart is completely dead. So Ramadan is a time that if our heart is completely dead, it is a time to give CPR to our heart. That's a time to give, to revive that dead heart. This is the only time that this heart is calm. Okay? This is the only time that the heart is calm. When the heart is calm, you're able to take control over that heart. The only time of the year when the heart is calm is the month of Ramadan. Okay? The time of the year when you can control that heart, take control of that heart, that time of the year is the month of Ramadan. So if the heart is dead, this is the time to revive. And finally, the month of Ramadan is the month of the Quran. This is the month of the Quran. And I will say one thing about the Quran is, first of all, the Quran makes it very clear. Shahru Ramadan. There's only one place in the Quran, only one place in the Quran where Allah talks about Ramadan. And that is in Surah Al-Baqarah. He says, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. That this is the month where the Quran was revealed. And by the way, the ulama, they say, Shaykh Sha'rawi rahmatullahi alayhi, he says very beautifully in his tafsir, Allah could have called and referred to the Quran here in this ayah as anything. Allah could have said, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi kitabullah. This is the month where the kitab of Allah was revealed. Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi dhikr. That this is the month where the dhikr was revealed. Why did Allah use the word Quran in this verse? Because the word Quran comes from the word qara'a. Qara'a means to read. Hence the word Quran linguistically means a book that is read over and over again. Hence Allah is trying to send a message to us that the month of Ramadan is the month where the Quran is to be read. The month of the Quran, the month of Ramadan is the month where the Quran has to be read. People come to me and say that I want to come closer to the Quran, but the only way you'll come closer to the Quran is first you have to read the Quran. You cannot just jump to the tafsir of the Quran and find the Quran amazing, but many people who have gone onto this journey, they have began this journey of the Quran, it all started from reading. They read, and they read. And then after a while, they felt that, you know what, I've been reading this Quran, now the time comes that I need to start understanding the Quran. And then they start going into understanding the Quran. And that means that then they are led to understanding the Arabic language and studying the Arabic language and then understanding the nuances of the Quran. And subhanAllah, those same people, then they love to read the Quran. But it begins with reading the Quran. And this is why, by the way, when people come to me and they say, I have doubts in my deen, when youth come to me and say, I have doubts in my deen, you know what the first thing I tell them is, how often do you read the Quran? How often do you read the Quran? Because the Quran says, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ. It is a guidance, not just for Muslims, لِلنَّاسِ. How many times we have done shahadas here? And they said that what changed your life? What made you believe in Islam? They said, I read the Quran. You've heard this before, right? Yes or no? I read the Quran. That's it. They became Muslims because they read the Quran in English, first of all. Okay? Not even in Arabic. Arabic has its own beauty to it. But they read the Quran in English. Think about how powerful the Quran is, that even when it's translated, it still has an impact on other people. So the Quran is هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. It's not only just guidance, but there is proofs of that guidance. That likewise we find when I just said, when youth come to me and they say, I have doubts in my deen, the first thing I ask them is, how often do you read the Quran? Because when you read the Quran, your doubts will be eliminated. You will start believing more in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But a person says, I don't read the Quran and I have doubts. Of course you're going to have doubts. Of course there's going to be a lack in your deen because you're not reading the Quran. So that is why now that Ramadan is coming, once again, what's the first thing I said about Ramadan? Starts with the R. Reform. Second one was, starts with a D. Detox. The third is, starts with the R. Revival. Okay? If we have a dead heart, revival. Fourth thing is that we need to make sure we achieve in Ramadan is Quran. Okay? Reform, detoxification, revival, and Quran. You do these kind of things, you will have a meaningful Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this Ramadan our best Ramadan. Ameen Rabbil Alameen.